Welcome to the first of what we hope is many presentations of Hit Stick Sports. My name is Bobby.
My name is Corey.
And we're here to talk to you about something that's not so glamorous. We're not glamorous people. But sometimes you got to talk about the things that you don't want to. And we're going to talk about the East-West game, the East-West Shrine game. These are guys that are going to be 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round picks, undrafted free agents. Not unimportant people, but they're going to be more of role players and, people who are going to be developing in the league for the next few years. Basically, it's an all-star game still, and the East-West Shrine game is about the Shriners Hospital. They benefit kids who are going through less fortunate times. It gives the kids an opportunity to meet some of these athletes, and what it really does is shows these athletes what it truly means to be strong whenever they get to meet these kids and hear their stories. Let's get right into it. It was a pretty good game. It was more of a defensive struggle, it seemed, but there were definitely some flashes of good plays, and we're going to hopefully talk about those today. Just starting off the game, it was pretty slow. Shimonik was the starting quarterback. He was out of Texas Tech. He started off a little slow, some incompletions early, but by the end of the game, he was really on point. He finished actually 12 of 18 for 105 yards and a touchdown, which was by far the best quarterback performance. Couple big stories that people were really interested in. We had J.T. Barrett, who came out. He was pretty inaccurate, panicked at times. Still finished with 69 yards and a touchdown, under 50% completion.
He didn't sense trouble very well.
No, it was
the moment that pocket collapsed. He was getting sacked. He wasn't breaking free and using those legs that he's famous for.
Yeah, he had 3 rushes for 17 yards, but those were mostly off designed runs. So it's still wasn't a great performance, but he showed everyone what we already knew about him.
I think he may have hurt his draft stock a little bit in this one.
Maybe if he was even going to get picked. He's definitely going to be a backup quarterback for a while.
The O-line for the East really struggled in that first quarter for this one. They were just getting overpowered by the West defensive line.
Yeah, they had Bilal Nichols out there. Dude is a beast. He's really hard to contain. He was straight bull rushing these guards, these big dudes, just straight bull rushing and pushing them back. He was actually the guy who caused J.T. Barrett to throw basically a fumble. It was a backwards pass that was recovered for a touchdown. It was definitely a pretty comical couple seconds because everyone else stopped on the play, and the safety, what was his name? Let's see. Well, I'll come back to it. We'll get to it, but he picked it up, took it like 80 yards for a touchdown. It was on a pretty decent drive.
But the biggest news to come out of that fumble return for a touchdown was the awesome celebration with Roland Jones. Oh, it was just the best.
It was butt smacking good, as it were.
Yeah, he really let his teammate have it. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, for sure. Another East quarterback that got some playing time was Riley Ferguson out of Memphis. Once again, nothing too great. He showed some spurts with just filling the pocket really well. Little inaccurate passing, 4 of 11 for 63 yards.
But he showed his rolling out ability and just sensing pressure that he dodged people that it didn't even look like he saw coming. I was impressed with his being able to fill the pocket.
There was one play I remember off the top of my head where he dodged a hand that came from behind him that he had no way of seeing. It was a good pocket presence for sure. So I'm sure that he will get an opportunity somewhere and hopefully impress some people and some scouts. Let's move on to the West quarterbacks. We'll speak a little bit more on them.
I was pretty impressed with Nick Stevens, the second quarterback to come in for the West. He was pretty impressive. I think he went like 4 for 7 for I can't even remember how many yards, but he was pretty impressive. His presence, he was making good throws. See, when Jeff Badette, their receiver, he was out of Oklahoma. He was doing really well. He was over the middle routes where he was open a lot. There was several times when he got open over the middle that the quarterbacks just didn't see him. I think he really improved his draft stock.
Yeah, he wasn't afraid to get hit, which is something that was huge.
Yeah.
Especially playing that slot receiver spot, which he played all game. He basically played out of the slot almost exclusively. There's a couple times that he was out wide. But, I mean, all his catches were made out of the slot. And he really showed his presence of mind to be able to go up, catches it with his hands, which is something you have to do in that situation, because if you catch it off your sternum, you're going to cause a lot of interceptions.
And Ray Lowry, the running back out of Old Dominion,
Yeah.
he had to have increased his draft stock because nobody knew who he was, and he averaged like 8 yards a carry his first 4 carries.
Yeah, it was something ridiculous. I mean, there's a lot of good running backs out of here. I mean, it was a good time for if you're a fan of running backs. Yeah, he finished at 7 rushes for 38 yards, which was decent. The other guy in the East team, D'Ernest Johnson, out of South Florida, finished with 6 rushes for 31 yards. I mean, it was a good running back display. I guess the top running back as far as most carries was Philip Lindsay out of Colorado. He played for the West. He was actually really impressive. I liked his speed burst. He was definitely a Danny Woodhead type player. Real quick, goes down easy, but he's not afraid to get up in there and try to find a hole.
And I was impressed with another West running back in Chun.
Yeah, Jordan Shun out of Troy.
His power running was pretty good. He came in, had no problems just running up the middle to get on that yard.
Yeah, he picked up a couple first downs whenever they needed in short yardage situations. Unfortunately, most of his other runs were stopped pretty quickly, so he ended up with quite a few rushes for not a lot of yards. I think he came out to 1.8 yard average, but that really didn't tell the story of where he came in and made the difference. Another good running back story is Jordan Martin out of Syracuse, plays defensive end and fullback. I guess he was walking across the stage when they were introducing him for the game, and basically everyone in the building said that dude's a fullback. Well, he actually came out and he caught a touchdown pass in his first ever game as a fullback.
Yeah, you do what the coaches need you. I mean, he impressed with his willingness to change, because you got guys out there like Lamar Jackson who is fighting the fact that people think he's going to be a receiver in the NFL. But then you got guys like this who they say, "Hey, would you play fullback for us?" He immediately does it on a day's notice. Goes out there and plays fullback for him.
Yeah, it's amazing. He also still played defensive end in the game, and he did get a good QB pressure. He forced it was Shimonik, forced Shimonik up into the pocket, and they threw an incomplete pass, I believe. But yes, I mean that's a good story. He helped himself out by just the versatility now.
Yeah, and a big thing to me in the first quarter was the West poor clock management. They're marching the ball down, probably trying to get a score before the end of the first. Delay a game. 2 delay of game penalties on them. Just can't have that.
Yeah, I mean this game's really tests see how they react to NFL rules, because it's played with NFL rules. Calls are coming in helmets, and they have to call the play in the huddle. Mm-hmm. So there was obviously some disconnects there. There was definitely one about halfway through the game where J.T. Barrett forgot the play call as he was trying to tell it to everyone, and they had to waste a timeout because of it. So it's just to fill it around, see how they react to NFL rules and how ready they think that they'll truly be when it comes down to that draft day, and if they're people that, if need be, are put in that situation, can get out there and play. Let's see here. So right off the bat, there was actually a really good defensive play with Joe Osman and P.J. Hall. So P.J. Hall's a defensive tackle out of Sam Houston State. He gets a good push, beats his guy just to the outside, beats the guard just to the outside, just rolls right by him, gets a good pressure on J.T. Barrett, and then Joe Osman out of Central Michigan comes in and cleans up the sack. I mean, realistically, I would give P.J. Hall that sack just because he was the one that basically held him up and stopped the play. But I think Joe Osman's going to get that on the stat sheet.
You might have to fight Osman to get that sack back from him. There was Nick Shimonek. He threw some pretty bad deep throws. Then he makes a great deep throw at the end. So it might have been nerves. A quarterback that I'm hoping is just nerves because he threw for 1 billion yards for Sam Houston is Briscoe, Jeremiah Briscoe. I mean, he came out pretty much laid an egg. I think he completed one pass.
One pass that was actually hilarious. He overthrows his receiver. It bounces off the chest of the defensive back, flies about 15 feet in the air, and Weineke goes up and makes that catch. Jake Weineke out of South Dakota State goes up and makes that catch. High points that ball. It was his only catch of the game, and I don't think it could have come at a better time because Briscoe's trying to bury them in the dirt with an interception.
From what we had heard, he had struggled through the week, but you got to come out and show, man. This is your time. This is your time to shine to help your draft stock.
Definitely showed the nerves and the NFL style of play.
And I was a little disappointed with the East-West game for that reason. I feel like they played it way too conservative. There's a lot of running the ball.
Yeah.
This is their chance to shine. You want to go for the big plays for them.
Absolutely.
The goal is not to win this game. It is to improve your draft stock.
Yeah, display your players, and as a coach, that's your job.
And I felt like it was played to win and a little conservative.
Yeah,
from both sides.
For sure. I mean, that, in fairness, it could have had a lot to do with these guys that only been practicing together for a week. But, it's one of those things where if you see 500 incompletions, if you see one good deep ball, that helps. Kind of thing. Let's take a look here.
Speaking of practice, Ray Lowry, the Old Dominion running back we talked about earlier, he only had one practice to come in there and rush for as well as he did.
Yeah, he came in off an injury scratch.
Yeah, so I'm thinking that had to open up a lot of eyes because having only one practice and then coming in, and he showed up.
Yeah, he was definitely one of the better running backs. I really liked him and Lindsey, Philip Lindsey. I think they're both going to have a place in the league. I mean, all these running backs played really well. But the only other thing I can really think of is talk about receivers from the West in the East. So Darius Fountain, he came in. He had a couple drops out of Northern Iowa. He had a couple drops early. But by the end of the game, he's really picking it up. He had one pass go for 38 yards, and he picked up another one. I mean, he showed quick speed once he got the ball in his hands. His issues were drops. He had another late drop. I mean, he managed to finish 3 catches for 61 yards, which isn't bad. But, I mean, you got to work on those drops. But I don't doubt that we're going to see him somewhere next year for sure.
If he's not, if he doesn't get it for being a receiver, I'm pretty sure his punt returning ability is going to get him.
Yeah, he had a big 30-yard return. It was pretty beautiful. Stephen Dunbar out of Houston for the West had 3 catches for 52 yards and a touchdown. He played solid all game. He caught all his targets. Basically did his job. Went out there, did his job. Nothing too crazy, but he made sure that he showed up. And that really rolls right into Jeff Badet again. Like I said, he was so reliable. Everything that was thrown at him, he caught. He had the most catches out of anyone in this game. Definitely helped himself out.
And talking about Dunbar, sorry, reading my stuff wrong here. Dunbar, he did make that great catch to win the game at the end. I mean, it was a beautiful deep throw.
Yeah,
it was a beautiful catch.
Shimonek put it in a place where only he could get it, and he did go get it. It's really important to have that out of both those guys, and they showed up with that. It was impressive.
And I don't know how many, I'm trying to reach here, I don't know how many catches he had, but Chun, he really impressed me. There was a screen out the back that was thrown to him, and it was thrown really low, and he was still able to go down and get the ball and complete it and get for a couple yards. I mean, just the hands were shown were pretty good there by the running backs. But him and Lindsey both had some pretty good catches. I mean,
yeah, definitely a couple good third down backs at the least. Chun definitely fits more into like that Mike Tolbert from the Bills role. Bigger guy, but he comes in, can block, can run it if you need him, and has good hands. I think that's something that's really important. Do you have anything else?
Talk about Bobby Johnson,
the
head coach out of the West.
Yeah, so basically the story for Bobby Johnson is he was on the Raiders coaching staff. And as I'm sure most people in the sports world know, John Gruden just got that head coaching job and bringing in a whole bunch of people and basically cut everyone. So Thursday night, Bobby Johnson finds out that he no longer has a job. He gets the call, says he's not going to be with the Raiders anymore. 6 a.m. that next morning, he was on a flight out to get prepared for this East-West game. I mean, he was asked at one point the experience of this week, and he said it was one of the best, funnest weeks of his life.
He got to go back and be with the kids and stuff like that. He was loving it. He was enjoying his time that he had and getting prepared to hopefully become a coach somewhere else.
Yeah, I definitely think that
deserved it.
Yeah, his character above all, he deserves something out there for sure. Well, that is going to sum up the first installment of Hit Stick Sports. We're going to go ahead and let you all go. Do me a favor and go follow us on Twitter. Hit Stick Sports on Twitter. Thank you so much.